I know what you're thinking, Shill, the quality of this video is terrible. But you know what's worse than terrible video quality? Terrible audio quality. So guys, do you want to know how I did this? Do you want to know how I did this? If you want to know how to use sound effects and sound design to reel in your viewers, then you have come to the right place. Now, I encourage you to watch the whole video because I cover a bunch of different sound effects topics. And if you only want to learn about specific spots, I'm showing the timestamps on screen right now. So head to the spots that you only want to look at if that's what you want to do. So let's just head straight into it. Alright guys, so I'm in After Effects right here, and I'm just going to be looking at the sound design that I did for this Fortnite montage called Options, which was the creative team montage for NorCal, and I recently posted that. So click this top right button to watch that montage because I highly encourage you to do that to just get some insight onto what my sound design sounds like. Yo guys, Shill from the future here. That's why I'm not wearing a robe. I figured I would just give you guys some free sound effects to work with. So check the link in the description because I have a Google Drive to some sound effects that I have made in Ableton. They have surround sound and 8D audio. So if you're interested, make sure to mess around with those. It's not like a huge pack, but just some free sound effects that you might want to work with. Enjoy. So we're going to dissect this for a second, and then I'm actually going to open up a new project and just do some sound effects in a brand new project so you can see what my workflow looks like. Now with that being said, let's check this out. So we have this little section we're going to look at here. So I'll just play this without the song so you could just hear the sound effects. Okay, cool. So this is what the sound design is like for this little portion. So let me just go over a few things. This is what my workflow looks like. I finish my edit, I do all of the actual editing, and then I actually have my own project file. If I go to my file explorer here, I have a sound effects After Effects project file. So I could just drag that in. And that literally just has all my sound effects folders with all the files already imported. And that just helps me just have a really good plate to work with. I'm gonna be using After Effects, guys, but you can use whatever editing software you use, whether in Premiere, Sony Vegas, just as long as you can add files and add some sort of audio effects. And in terms of where I get these sound effects, I have a bunch of files in here, and they're just the product of accumulated sound effects that I've gotten from YouTube, Google, Production Crate, Turk Club Sound Effects Pack, Video Copilot, and literally just any place that you get sound effects. So I want you guys to know, it's very important that you guys know there's no right set of sound effects to use. You can have your perfectly own selection, and I highly encourage you to just branch out on where you get them because that helps you curate a selection that specifically works to what your style is. For me, I use sound effects, and over time I was able to get a few select signature sound effects that I like to use, and that's going to bring us to what the main sound effects categories are. So you have stuff like ambience, you have stuff like gun sounds, which are like the sounds that are made in the game, you have whooshes, you have thematic sound effects, which are sound effects that are just artistic sound effects that help to bring out the theme of your edit. So like for instance, this is a video game themed intro, so I would want to make sure that I'm using sound effects that help to bring out the theme of the video game. And then we also have signature sound effects, which are just sound effects that are pretty personal to you, that you like to use in your edits, and that just give you a sense of personal style and customization. So for example, some of my signature sound effects are like this camera, the Shillarious sound effect, and a few others. Let me know what others you guys think are my signature sound effects. Comment below because I want to know which ones you guys think that I use in most of my edits. So those are the main categories, and once you know that, it's just a matter of kind of implementing them so that it makes your edit as good as possible. Now the way I go about thinking about this is, okay, I have this little scene here. Now let me put myself in this environment and think of all the possible sounds that I might hear, and then the more that you can push that and layer that, the more it's going to immerse your viewer into your environment. Now we have the video game theme, so I would want some sort of electricity or like hologram sound effects to kind of bring out this selection menu and plane flying in the background. So I'd want something like that. And then we have clouds in the background as well, so maybe some wind. And so that covers our thematic and ambience sound effects. So so right here I have the layers for electricity, and we also have this popping up, so I would want like a Mario sound effect, so I have this little coin layer. So all in all, these are covering the diegetic audio of the scene. Now, diegetic sound effects are sound effects that you would hear in your scene. So you see a plane, you hear a plane sound effect. So that's diegetic. Non-diegetic sounds are sounds that are not in your scene but help to make the edit even better. So for example, the sound of the actual song or voice tags or whooshes, those are non-diegetic because you wouldn't actually hear them, but when they're there, they help the edit be a little bit better. So yeah, so I just dragged in this coin, anime electricity, and these just help to make the sounds of like this pipe and this set of holograms, and then we have the jet and the clouds and the plane flying by, and then in this scene we have the character coming onto the screen, so I'd want another like victory sound maybe for the character being chosen. So I have this victory sound effect here. Now for a little bit of intensity or like suspense, I like to have a little bit of bass. Usually when you add bass in a content video or an edit, it adds a sense of suspense. So let's look at this sound effect here. This is a subsonic deep, so that means it's just bass, and this is from Video Copilot. So I'm gonna solo this bass and show you guys what this sounds like. So that's playing in the background. Now if that wasn't there, you would not notice. But as soon as it's there, in the back of your mind as a viewer, you're like, oh, this feels professional, even though you don't know exactly what it is. So I usually like to add a little bit of bass. You don't have to, but it just gives a sense of depth to the scene. Then there's also sound effects for transitions. So we have cinematic boom here is covering that up. A lot of the times people use whooshes, swooshes, stuff like that. You can also use sound effects like slams or impacts or booms. So I have this little slams folder, and this is just like, look, listen to the sound effect and you'll be like, oh my god, it's amazing. I love that. If you could ever find a chance to put that into the edit, the better. I'll use that for something like coming out of a screen, for example, right here. This right here, that's where I would use like a much more majestic sound effect. If I just put a whoosh here, it would do the job, but once I have like something with bass, like a slam or a trailer impact, this more eye-catching transition is gonna need a bassier and juicier sound effect, more than just a normal whoosh.
Hilarious.
So that's something to keep in mind, but normal whooshes usually work for just simple transitions like this one. In this case, I'm just using a simple boom that sounds like this. If you want to add some extra ambience, maybe you could add some wind sound effects. So if I open up my ambience tab, I have like a wind sound effect here, which is just like the ruffle of wind. Now that we've covered the diegetic sounds and some of the non-diegetic sounds, it's just a matter of adding pizzazz to just like really awe people with your sound design. So I have this little ticking noise to kind of add some build up for this scene right here. So I think this is a really cool shot, so I want to add like a bit of suspense. So I'm adding this, let me solo this sound effect and you can hear what it sounds like. Cool, so that just like preps you for a cool scene right there. If you want to add like some cool sound effects, like for example, let me just put this leaves with background sound effect. I'll just solo this, see what it sounds like. I'm gonna click LL to take out the waveform over this cloud scene, and hell, let's just reverse it. And then I'm gonna shift L to take out the audio levels, and I want this to fade in from like very low to about 0. Once we get into the chalkboard, we can fade that out. And then great, so we're gonna do that, and then we'll add some reverb. I'm just gonna add reverb, muffle, and pass, and low pass, which is just a combination of bass and treble, high, low pass, and reverb. Now if we play this back, this is what it sounds like. Now it's very subtle, but you could do that with any effect. I highly recommend time mapping your sound effects because it just like, if it's slowed down and reverbed a little bit, it sounds really cool. So if you Control-Alt-T on any layer and just spread out these keyframes and adjust it like that, it'll lower the pitch a little bit and just slow it down, and then add a little bit of extra low pass, reverb, or muffle or something like that, and it'll just sound even better. So guys, we've covered a lot. I do want to stress a very important thing. You can have all of these sound effects. It helps to layer them out. If you layer your whoosh sound effects, instead of just having one, you have like 2, it can sound even better. And the one thing I really want to stress with that, guys, if you just put in a bunch of sound effects and layer them, it's not just gonna sound good. You have to integrate them so that it's mixed well. Otherwise it's gonna be ear rapey, it's gonna be way too loud, and it's gonna take your viewer out of the scene that you want them to be in. When I first did sound effects, they were so loud and it was so distracting. So it's super important that you play things back, you solo your sound effects, and you mix them so that they are not too loud. Low pass is what I like to use usually over high pass. The main thing I adjust here is the frequency. So if I put it to complete 1, then you're not gonna hear it at all because it's literally cutting off all of the frequencies except for just the very, very bottom of the bottom. Let's fucking go, bro.
Let's go.
That's hype. That's hype. Let's go.
What's up, YouTube?
You announcing it? And you can also adjust the sounds of the actual song. And I'm gonna bring you guys along this journey because there's so much to learn right here. Okay, we're just gonna solo this so you can only hear the song. Okay. Sounds totally like normal, all right? Now it's time to start adding some effects. So when I say really try to put yourself in the scene, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. We're in this little area here. So let me turn on the effects for this and unsolo that. What we can also do is add some audio effects to the actual song to make it feel like the song is part of this environment as well. So right here, I'm low passing a little bit and lowering the frequency so that it's a little bit muffled on the low pass. And then I'm also adding a little bit of reverb. Since we're in this little stadium area, a little bit of reverb is gonna make the song feel like it's kind of playing in the background or something. So I'm keyframing the reverb to kind of boost up right around here and go back to normal once it goes back into the scene here. So let's see what this sounds like with the audio effects. So again, it's subtle, but oh my gosh, it just makes things feel so much better. That's the kind of stuff that we like. Okay, great. Now y'all have been asking me so much how I do my classic reverb to fade out. Okay, so I'm gonna show you exactly how I do it. Let me reel the example. What are we talking about here? Okay, so I like to use a digital audio workstation called Ableton Live. If you don't have this, it's totally fine. You don't even have to use this at all. I just highly recommend that you pay attention to the actual process here because that's what matters, whether or not you even have Ableton. Now, if you do want Ableton, I'm using the trial. I literally just use the trial version. It's totally free. So I have a link to that in the description below if you do want to follow along. Even if you're a complete beginner, it's simple. You can grit through this and you can make it happen. Trust me. I love you guys. Let's get to it. So I'm gonna use a song from my boy Kevin Powers, Walked In. Great song. I actually used it for my 1v1 to LOL montage in the top right. Highly recommend you guys watch that because that's a banger. Okay, so we have this song here. Yeah. If you're just opening up Ableton for the first time, you do want to make sure your preferences are set. For me, I'm using an MMME driver type, which is just my headset, and you can use whatever you want. So you might want to change this to ASIO if you actually have like a full recording setup. Now, if your interface looks like this, that is because it kind of has like a dual workflow here where you have your patterns on this side of it, and once you click tab, you can shift to this workspace. And so the way I like to navigate this is kind of drag my elements into here and then hold it, click tab, and put that into here. Now, if I click shift tab, I can look at the properties for this layer. Now, this warp button has been selected, and that's because our BPM, our beats per minute for this project are 120, and the segment BPM of this actual layer also happens to be the same BPM, but if it were like 150 BPM and this were 120, then it would speed up to match this BPM. So I'm gonna click on warp just to make sure that I keep my original audio and it isn't sped up in any way. Okay, so guys, tell me, what do you think is gonna taste better? Eating a banana at the end of the day when you haven't had anything to eat for the whole day? Or eating a banana at the end of the day when you've been eating the entire day? The banana is obviously going to taste better if you haven't eaten the whole day, right? So I'm going to go to this impact here and you guys will see what I mean. Okay, so this right here is the main beat. Let's just play this little part. So it's like right on that beat, right? Okay, we're going to zoom in, go to where this bass starts to peak here, right click and go to split, and let's just drag that out. All right, we're just going to drag that out. Yum, delish, beautiful. Okay. And that's about a measure. So this is 6.4, this is 7.4. So you can see we're about a measure of wait time right here. So all we have is just this. And then it's cut. And then it's like that. Okay, cool. So we're doing that because this is our banana and this is our hunger. We need to get this shit spicy, okay? It needs to get some lead up and be really exciting so that this impact just hits even harder. Also guys, totally random, I stream on Twitch. I stream myself editing, reacting to your edits, your montages, and I host our contests several times a week. So I highly recommend that you follow me on Twitch. The link is in the description. And then I also post on my Twitter and Instagram. So make sure you guys are following me. I wanted to plug that real quick. So let's get into this. So we have our setup here, and now we're gonna head to audio effects right here. And I'm gonna add some reverb. So I'm gonna search for reverb here. And you can use a preset if you want to. These work totally fine. I'm just gonna put on the default reverb setup and just put it onto this layer in the timeline. Okay, so let's play this to see what this reverb sounds like. Okay, hey. So, you know, it's just basic reverb, sounds pretty good. Basically, dry wet is the opacity of audio. So the more we wet that, the more the effect is gonna be applied. So I'll put that to 100. And I'm gonna increase the decay time so that it kind of echoes a little bit extra. And now let's play this section. Okay, so we start to get that cool fade. Now I'm gonna right click on this dry wet and show automation. Let me zoom in here. Now this show automation is how we create keyframes in audio. So I'm gonna set a dot here, like at 100%, and then we click to make another keyframe and just put that to 0 right before that, so it just gradually increases and the reverb is just going to build up right to that ending. So let's preview that and see how this sounds. I also want to make sure that right for the end of it you put it back down to 0. So I'm going to set keyframe at 100 here and set that to 0 so that when it comes back it's normal. And let's preview what this sounds like. Oh yeah, dude, it doesn't miss. That shit hits, alright? Damn. So that's pretty much the gist of how to do this faded reverb effect here. And if you want to push it further, you can go to samples tab here and look up some reverse sound effects. And you can just add some sort of crash or kick so that you have it reverse into that final beat. That could sound cool. I'll leave that up to you guys. Make sure if you want to adjust the fade in, you can click this button here to go in and out of automation, and that way you can fade certain sound effects. And that just might help a little bit. Now that is my workflow for Ableton and how I do my music sound effects, and I hope that's super helpful. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and please tell me what I can do better in my tutorials, because I want to teach you guys how to do certain things in the best possible way that I can. It is an honor to be able to share anything that I know with you guys, and please do the same with me. I love you guys so much, and seriously, be sure to follow me on my socials because I've linked them below, and it is a great way for me to connect with you guys more. Have a great rest of your day. Stay cozy, stay comfy, and stay hydrated. Peace.